All right. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Matthew McDermott, and if you have any trouble hearing me during the session, if you have any questions during the session, please use the question queue. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions live. And if you have questions later on, I'll have my contact information coming up. So my name is Matthew McDermott. I'm a consultant for Aptalon Incorporated, and I am, when I'm not doing SharePoint stuff and Office 365 and Azure stuff, that's Ruby. That's my dog, and I'm an avid dog guy. Ruby and I run in a sport called canine agility, and have a great time doing that. And I also like to travel and take photos. And that particular photo is the Scottish Highlands in wintertime up on a spot called Rannoch Moor. But if you want to get a hold of me, you can always email me. Just remind me that you were in the webinar, and that'll help me remember what lies I have to justify. If you're interested in more of this content, you can check out my blog at ableblue.com/blog. And on Twitter, I'm at Matthew McD, and on Instagram, I'm at Golden Dog Ruby. So I'm a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. I'm an MVP for Office Servers and Services. I'm also a Pluralsight author. I have 2 courses up there. One is related to search. It's called SharePoint Search Back to Front. It says it's for SharePoint 2013, but whether you know it or not, it's no different in SharePoint 2016. And so the course is still very relevant. There's also a course up there for upgrading your sites to from SharePoint 2013 to SharePoint 2016. I'm also a member of the World Education Alliance, which means I'm an instructor for combined knowledge. And I teach a hybrid class. If you're interested in SharePoint and Office 365 hybrid configurations, I have a class there. I'm also a consultant for Aptalon. That's kind of my day job, is I work as a SharePoint and Office 365 and Azure consultant. So we're here to talk about the guide that was put together by Hyperfish and a group of other MVPs and community folks. Mark Anderson, Agnes Molnar, Jeremy Thake, and Michael Svensson and I, along with some other folks, contributed to this guide. You can get it for free off of the Hyperfish site. And if you're on the Hyperfish site, which this is the Hyperfish site, and I want to thank them for sponsoring this webinar. This is their homepage. You can just scroll right down to the bottom, and right here is the Employee Directory Guide, and it explains what the directory is and how to get your free copy just by having them send you an email. And these are the folks that are all involved in the guide and in putting this guide together. So Jeremy, of course, works for Hyperfish, but then Mark and Michael, Julie, me, Agnes, Thomas, and Stacy all came together and did it. There's also a podcast here that walks through your Jeremy's intro to the guide, as well as Mark's contributions to the guide. And he talks about the benefits of using a better employee directory than you get with standard SharePoint or Office 365 and SharePoint Online. And then the last thing is, if you go to my blog, which is ableblue.com/blog, right here on the home page is Build an Employee Directory with SharePoint, SharePoint Online. And this has the link to my YouTube channel, which will show you essentially the walkthrough of how to build out this entire guide, or how to build out this entire employee directory for you. All right, so what we're going to do is walk through the steps for creating this people search experience. And I'm going to use Office 365. The settings, the steps are exactly the same in SharePoint on-prem. And I'm logged in as Adele Vance. Adele is a SharePoint administrator. You do not have to be an administrator to do this. You have to have site collection access. And what I'm going to do as Adele is I'm going to walk through kind of the current search experience as it exists in SharePoint Online right now. So I can come up here and search, and I can search for marketing. And what this search experience does is it breaks out the sites, the files, and then I can also see more marketing results, or I can click over here. Now notice that I'm still not in the SharePoint Search Center. This is all the new search experience for Office 365. Down at the bottom, there's a link here for going to the classic results page, and this will take us to what I consider to be the traditional SharePoint search center. And so in SharePoint Online, this is under your tenant name /search. And in order to accomplish what's in our guide, you have to at least be an owner or a contributor and an owner or an administrator of this site, because we're going to be creating pages and things like that. So if you don't see this gear up here, then you're kind of out of luck until somebody gives you access. If you do see that gear, then you should also see edit and add page. If you don't see those settings, then you do not have the right permissions to get your job done. So get those permissions set up correctly so you can get started. So what we need to do here is create a new page. So I can come in and I can choose add a page. And if I do that, SharePoint is going to automatically create the default SharePoint search results page, which is not what I want, because I want a people search results page. So being that I know SharePoint, I'm going to go into site contents, and I'm going to go down here to pages, and inside the pages library, I'm going to choose to create a new page. And this is where you'll see the first problem that we run into. And that's that this is the wrong kind of search results page. Now, there's nothing really special about search results pages. They're just a collection of web parts that can be used any way that you want. But I want to show you an easier way. I'm going to go to Page Layouts and Site Templates. And in Page Layouts and Site Templates, I'm going to drop down here, and you'll see here's the default search results page. But the one that I want is the people search results page, which is this one. So I'm going to add that as a choice. I'm going to choose OK. And now, if I go back to site contents, and I go back into pages, I can then come in here to new page, and I get the choice for a people search page or a standard search results page. So I'm going to call this one Employee Directory. Now, when I do that, it creates the page with a dash so that there's no spaces in my page name. And I'll make sure that it says people, search people, and choose create. So what you may be getting a sense of already in terms of my demo is that it helps to know a bit about SharePoint when you're doing this. But aside from that, it really is not very hard for you to create these search experiences on your own. The configurability of SharePoint itself, using publishing page layouts and things like that, out of the box, it works very well. In fact, I can simply save this page, and what you'll notice right away is that this page is already functional. If I just type star, I see that I've got results from our tenant already, and this page works the way that you would expect a standard search results page to work. Now, I stood this tenant up just this morning, so the images aren't showing up, but I think it's a good time to point out that Hyperfish has an amazing product that will allow you to synchronize your user photos and other relevant information from your directories to SharePoint Online or SharePoint On-Prem. In fact, if all you really care about is your photos, or you just want to get started with Hyperfish, they have a free product that will allow you to do user photo synchronization for Office 365 or SharePoint On-Prem, and it will do it for you. So that's an option if you're interested in getting your user photos sorted out for Office 365. So let's move on. The next thing, now that I've got control of my search page, what I want to do is make sure, because I've got this new search results page set up, now I've got a canvas upon which I can do the rest of my work. And so the next thing I'm going to do is configure my default search results. Now, as I go through these demos, the thing you should be thinking is, wow, this is great for people search, but what if I wanted to do it for other kinds of content? Like, what if I wanted to have a contract search results page? The process is exactly the same. What if I wanted to have a site search page? The process is exactly the same. All you're going to do is change the queries that you're using and change the display templates to work for you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up I'm going to fix this result source so that it works for me. Because what you'll notice out of the box, the way these search pages are designed is if they don't have a parameter passed to them, they don't return any results. And for our employee directory, I want people to get results immediately on this page. I want a default set of results to load. So let's set that up. Let's go in and we're going to edit the page. And the query is actually associated with this people search core results web part. And so if you haven't done this before, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to choose to edit the web part right here, okay? And by editing the web part, it allows me to change many of the properties of the way that this search results box works. The first thing I'm going to do is change the query. Change the query, what I want to do is make sure that in addition to the query that gets passed, I'm just going to type content class equals SPS people. Now, content class is a way that SharePoint figures out what kind of content it's serving, and SPS people is the people type. So if I test that query, you'll see that I get a whole bunch of results back. And I'm going to choose OK. I'm going to choose OK. And what I should see in my results right away is I should see people results, and I do. So this is a good time to check this in. A good time to check in the page because we've got a nice starting point. So here I am on my search page, and I've already got results. And of course, if I type in a search, it will return people with marketing experience. So I'm happy about that. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I need to download and install, or download and then upload, the display templates for our employee directory. Now, what I've done before the podcast is I went ahead and downloaded those files, and they come down as SPO Employee Directory Master because they're coming down from GitHub. Extract those into a directory and browse down until you find the _employee directory, the employee directory group. From there, what I'm going to do is instead of opening, now you could go in here and go into Design Manager. I don't recommend it, but you could. And you could go into Upload Design Files. Okay. And then this link, of course, it does not work. Okay. So you could try going into Edit Master Page or Edit Display Templates, but of course, they've disabled the ribbon here. So the next thing you might do is go into Site Settings, and you might go into Master Pages and Page Layouts. And if you're in Chrome, you'll notice that Open with Explorer is disabled. Okay, I'm sorry, if you're in, I'm in Chrome. So if I open Edge and I go to the same site in Edge, a friend of mine, Andrew Connell, likes to say that the one thing that Edge is really good for is downloading Chrome. But there's actually two things that you can do with Chrome, with Edge. The other thing you can do is log into your site. You can log into your site. So I'm in Edge, and I'm logging into my site. And then what I use Edge for here is hit the three buttons and choose Open with Internet Explorer, which is the other thing that Edge is good for. So I'm going to log in. And you'll wonder why I'm jumping through all these hoops. Well, because once you've jumped through those hoops, go into Site Settings, go into Master Pages and Page Layouts, and then notice what happens. If I go to Library and I have this site as a trusted site, I can open with Explorer. And when I do that, it'll open my site with Explorer View so that I can simply drag and drop my files. So after all those hoops, what I can do now is come over here and grab my employee directory files. Here's my search catalog. Get rid of that one. And the way that we have the code set up, the code is set up so that you can simply drag and drop the files directly into the root of the master page gallery. So let me make sure I got my drag and drop set up here, and I do. And I'm simply going to take this employee directory and I'm going to make sure that it says copy to master page. Make sure you don't accidentally drop it into one of these subfolders. Okay, so I'm going to choose copy to master page. It's going to upload those files to the master page gallery. So here's our employee directory. There's not a lot in here. There's just a CSS, which is the cascading style sheet for the employee directory, which means that if you don't like the colors that you see later on, if they don't match your company standards, then you can go ahead and change them. And then there's display templates. And so for us, there's two display templates. There's a control search results table, and there is an item person table template. So what am I talking about? Well, when you're looking at creating these display templates, what you're looking at is how do you want your search results to look? So if I'm in my search page and I do a search for somebody, or a search for, in this case, let's search for marketing. Every one of these, the part that's hovered there in blue, and this hover card, these are all display templates. So every one of these results is being displayed with either a specific display template, like this is one for Word documents, this is one for PowerPoint documents, and then the hover cards are associated with the display template. When I look at the people search results, the default people search results, these are people display templates, and this is a people hover card. So if you want to change them, it's up to you. You get to choose the look and feel of your search results. Now, surrounding the item search results is something called a control template. Now, the control template is sort of the bounding box around the outer group of items, or around the inner group of items. And so in our case, we're going to modify the outside to be tabular, and then the inside to be linear, so that it is a search result table that people can use, kind of like replicating the that Excel spreadsheet of everybody in the company that gets sent around. And so what we're going to do now that we've got those guys uploaded is we're simply going to reference them from our result page. So let's go back to site contents. Let's go back into pages, and let's find our employee directory page. And then let's edit this page. Edit the web part. And now I'm going to come into display settings. You'll notice that it's using the default control template. So I'm going to change that to use this new people search table control that we added when we added the underscore employee directory folder. The other thing is, instead of using result types to display the item, I'm going to force it to use one kind of display template, and that's going to be the people search table item that was also uploaded with our files. So 3 files. I know there were 2 extra JavaScript files. Those got created by SharePoint. But those 3 files together, the CSS, 2 display templates, allow us to be able to change the way these search results look, choose OK. That's going to close our property editor, and there you go. We've got the look and feel that we're looking for. Now, when I first ran these demos a couple of months ago, I noticed that if the JavaScript isn't working correctly, then you won't notice this E, in my case, the Q and the U, they're de-highlighted because those people don't exist in my company. If the JavaScript isn't working for you, or if you have absolutely every letter of the alphabet represented in your company, all of these will be blue. So it's something to test to make sure it's working correctly. This looks good. I'm happy with that. So we'll go ahead and check this in, and we'll say DTs applied. That's for our display templates. And we're getting something closer to an employee directory now. The all button simply says just search for everybody. It kind of clears out the search. I can come in here and click on H's, and that gives me just the people whose last name begins with H. So L gives me L's, etc. Now, you'll notice the query is pretty straightforward. It's just last name contains, and then it's L star. That means that it starts with an L. Okay, if I go to the W's, it's the same thing. But I can also do that search in here. I can search for marketing. Okay, so that's still, the functionality of the search page still works for me. It still does what I need it to do. All right, so that wasn't very hard. I think that if I wasn't talking, we could have gotten this far in about 10 minutes. Okay. So what else do you want to do? Well, what if you wanted to add some additional capability to your display template? For instance, you wanted to add another field in here for you to use. Well, you can do that, and it's actually quite easy to do if you understand how HTML and JavaScript work together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the item person table HTML file. In general, you never want to edit the JS file. It's just going to get regenerated. So I'm going to choose Edit in Notepad++, and that's going to bring it up here in Notepad++. And then what I'm going to do is come down here, and we have to decide what additional field we want to add. And that takes us into some SharePoint administration. So in SharePoint Online, now I'm logged in as a full administrator. In SharePoint Online, in the user profiles, it is possible to add additional user profile properties. Okay, now this is where the biggest difference between SharePoint Online and SharePoint On-Prem exist, because we don't get to control how often the content is crawled in SharePoint Online. Setting up new properties and then having them recognized by the search service application can be quite daunting. But what I can do is I can come in here and I can add things, like in this case, I have this one here called dog breed. Okay, now I added this about 3 hours ago. And so let's see if this works. And where we are now is we've got the user profiles uploaded. We changed to our custom display template. And I'll get back to sorting and refiners in a minute. I'm changing the order just a little bit because this particular setting that I'm about to show you takes some time to get configured. So I set up this field called dog breed. Then I populated it with some data. So now if I go into search, the only way I can start using that custom refinement or that custom field is if it shows up in my crawled properties. So I'm going to jump over to crawled properties as an administrator, and I'm going to look for the breed field and see if it shows up in my settings. And lo and behold, there it is. People, and it says Contoso dog breed. You'll notice that it's not mapped to anything. So what I'm going to do is drop back over here to managed properties, and I'm going to add a managed property. Now again, Being an administrator, I can do this. So this is going to be called dog breed, and it is a text field. We're going to make it searchable. We're going to make it queryable. We're going to make it retrievable. That means that I can search for values in that field, I can query for values in that field, and I can return those fields to my user interface. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to find the Add Mapping button. And since it's a people field, I'll do that, and then I'll say breed. Oops, come on. People field. And it's right there, Contoso dog breed. When I create my properties, I like to put the company specifier in there so that we know that it's specific to our company. And then I'm going to choose OK. Now, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be successful here, but I do want to show you, and if you go to my video, you'll see this happen. And this is an aside, and I know I'm doing things a little out of order, but Michael Svensson developed a script that will actually go and tell SharePoint online that a whole bunch of things have changed in the user profiles. And when that happens, it recrawls the user profiles. So you can download this script. There's a link in the guide. And then what you can do is run this script. What this script does is it enumerates your SharePoint Online user profiles, and it reads, in my case, it reads the department and writes it right back. So what SharePoint Online thinks is everybody just updated their profiles. And so what I'm hoping to have happen by the end of the demo is that we'll be able to use that new user profile property. But if it doesn't work during the demo, don't fret. If you go to my YouTube channel, and I'll leave you with a link for that at the end, I do take the time to show you how that happens. And what's happened in the past is it has done the update inside of 20 minutes, which is unheard of, because ordinarily it takes like 5 days for new user profile properties to show up. Anyhow, okay, so what I want to talk about next is adding sorting and refiners, and then we'll come back hopefully with a successful change to our user profiles. So sorting and refinement is handled right inside the web part, just like it was with all the other settings. So I'm going to edit the page, and I'm going to edit the web part. And right down here under settings is a checkbox that says show sort dropdown. And if you do that, it inserts some default sorting. I'm not going to use that. What I'm going to use is the sorting from, just do a simple last name sort. And so this is a little bit of JSON. And if you take this right out of the guide, I'm sorry, if you take this just like it looks so pretty here, and you paste it in here, paste it in, it looks really good, it won't work. Oh, it did work. What do you know? I'm stunned. That never works. I'll try the next one too. So this gives us a simple name sort. What I was going to show you is that if you have problems with your JSON not working, you can use a tool like Notepad++. Paste your JSON in, make sure that it's correct, and then you can run like a text effects unwrap text. Oops, select all my text. Text effects, unwrap text, and it will ensure that it's all on one line, because a lot of times that's what needs to happen there. So we're going to go into settings, and we're going to paste this in. Control A, delete it all, paste it in. And so what does that do? Well, if you'll notice in the JSON, we're specifying the name that gets displayed in the sort box, what we're sorting by, that's the managed property name, and then which way we're sorting it, descending or ascending. So this is descending equals false, descending equals true, et cetera, et cetera. So in this case, we're specifying first name and last name sorts. So once we're checked in, you'll notice that we're on Arif Shirazi. If I choose sort by first name descending, I've got Zachary first. I can sort by last name, A to Z. And so in this case, last name is administrator here, and then it goes to Albrecht. And then last name Z to A, Pam Zimmerman, etc. So sorting is actually really easy. It's built into the user interface and allows us to perform that level of sorting. The next thing that we want to do is handle our refiners. So refiners are built into the search user interface. It's this section over here, and you get to decide what you want your refiners to be. So you can do that by editing the page. And then in the refinement web part, you'll edit the refinement web part. And then you'll come over here to the Choose Refiners button. Now, refiners also use display templates. So if you want to change the way that they look, you can change the look and feel using display templates. But you'll also notice that right here it has things like base office location, people keywords, job title, and department. And then the available refiners down the side allow you to choose what items you're refining by. Now, if you want to use your own fields as custom refiners, then you need to make them refinable. And the way that we do that in SharePoint Online is by reusing these fields like refine date 00, refinable decimal, refinable int, etc. And so what you have to do as a site administrator or site collection administrator or search administrator is go into site settings, go into either under search schema, or over here under the search schema for the site collection, and then reassign. So you come up here and choose refinable, and this will show you all of the refinable fields, starting with date. Now, most of the time you're going to be doing something like a string field. So do refinable S. It'll bring up the string fields, choose the field, and then scroll down and map the field that you want to be part of your refinement. In our case, let's see if we can pull up that breed field. Oh, there's Contoso dog breed. So we'll choose OK there. And actually, rather than doing it here, because it's a people field, I'm going to do it as a search administrator. I'll do the same thing as a search administrator. I'm going to come into my managed properties and do refinable. I've had less success with people search fields being refinable in site collections. It's easier to have them, it's easier to work with them, but you'll notice they're already set to sortable and they're already set to refinable. So let's come down here, add a mapping, and let's choose people, and let's choose Contoso dog breed. So choose OK. And in the background, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that script one more time, because I want that script to update my refinable property. So we'll just let that run in the background. Okay, so the idea is we want to be able to refine by We want to be able to refine by our user or by our dog breed. So let me come in here to Employee Directory. Let me edit the page. And let me edit the refinement web part. It's just strange. Anyway, so essentially what I was saying at the end there is we've got our refinement working and we've got our filtering and sorting working. So we're getting really close to being finished. Now, one of the problems that you may find is that you have service accounts showing up in your search results. Now, the best way to filter out your service accounts is by doing that as part of the import process. So if the import is not working correctly, or if it's bringing in too many accounts, then you have to deal with it. But like, for instance, here's our administrator. What I think we're going to find here is if we go into the S's, is we're going to start seeing, here, let me see. Some of them are getting filtered out already. Maybe Microsoft is doing a better job with this. Let me see if I can find my, bear with me while I cycle through these guys. And you may find in your organization that there are, this is so funny, this is the first time I've been in a tenant where I haven't seen service accounts show up in the search results. Literally, like a week ago, I was seeing them. But like I said, I stood up this. There's another one, underscore SPO crawl. There's app SharePoint. And so let me show you how to get rid of this underscore SPO crawl, because of course this is the crawl account that they're using. But if you have other service accounts like SP Farm, SP Crawl showing up in your on-prem environment, then you would use the same technique to get rid of these or to exclude these accounts. And essentially what you can do is remove them using an exclude rule in your query. So I'm going to come back into people search core results. I'm going to choose edit web part. And the way that we get rid of these is we change the query again. Now, if I add to this query underscore SPO and I test the query, or SPO star, there's my crawl account that's showing up in my results. So all I have to do to get rid of that account, I'm going to specify it CRWL star so that I'm real specific about the account that I'm removing. All I have to do to get rid of that is put a minus sign in front of it. And there's everybody except for SPO crawl. So this minus sign in front of that attribute just says remove that. Don't let that one show up in our search results. And so just craft your query in such a way that you can get those results, get those to fail to show up. So I'm going to choose OK there. We'll check this in. Added service account exclusion and choose continue. So I'm going to do underscore SPO and I don't find those accounts. So I've successfully gotten the service accounts to be excluded from my results. All right. So we've got the service accounts excluded. We can take a look now at our custom user profile property. So you remember I added that custom property earlier today. I made sure that we crawled it. I searched for it. And so what I want to do is see if we can actually see that result. Now, one of the other things you can do, there's a couple of tools that are available that help you see these results really easily, and that's the things like the search query tool from Microsoft, or from that's on the part of the SharePoint Patterns and Practices group, and that'll help you find out where search results are working the way that you want and get results back. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick query on dog breed contains star, and see that I've got that as long as that search result doesn't fail, then it allows me to go in and modify this item person table. So the first thing I need to do is I need to add a column header. So I'm going to call that dog breed. And then down here where it has the office number, which is this is the office column. So right down here it has the office number. I'm just going to copy this line and I'm going to paste it right there. And I'm going to say current item dog breed. Now, this managed property isn't in my query yet. And so what I need to do is come up here to the managed property mapping in the display template and simply come up here and do a comma, a quote. Actually, what I'm going to do, just to keep things from dying on me, because my demos so far have been going okay, is I'm going to include all of this escaping logic, the #39s that are there. So I'll just paste it in, but then I'm going to replace this Yomi display name and Yomi display name just like that. We'll save the template back. And then we'll retry our query. And if I did it correctly, we should see a dog breed column right here. And then Adele has that column, has that property. It's not showing up yet because it hasn't been indexed. But when it does, we should see Golden Retriever show up over here. But that's really all you have to do. Again, doing this in 30 minutes is hard to do because some of these processes do take time. Okay, so we've got a couple tips. I'm going to show you one right here, which is a better people name query. What you'll notice out of the box is that SharePoint does include some rules for people names. And to get to them, what I'm going to do is come over here and show you that I can do a search for, like if I search for ADELE, it doesn't find Adele, but if I go to people, it finds Adele perfectly. So what's going on? If I type Vance, okay, it finds her, but not really. And then if I do ADELE Vance, then it finds her, but I have to know her whole name. So we can improve that by creating a better query rule. And so what I'm going to do is go into Site Settings. I'm going to go into Query Rules. And I'm going to select the All SharePoint Results or Local SharePoint Results. And I'm going to create a new query rule. Now, you can make this as broad or as narrow as you want, okay? You can tell it to look for specific things. So I'm going to call this Better People Search. And I'm going to remove the condition because I want the query to run against my properties in my user profile. So I'm going to add a result block. And if you want this really broad, then you can simply change this query to local people results. And then in the query builder, just leave the query the way it is. Okay, just leave it as subject terms. And what that means when you go to test it, like if I just do Adele, it's going to search and find Adele Vance. If I do marketing, then it's going to find all of those people. And now that may be too broad for you. You may want it to be a little more specific. And so one of the things that's kind of cool is that if you, for example, use a property filter like the name of the user who runs the query, you'll notice it says user.name. But I can also use this against user profiles where I can actually search for the subject user.name. Okay, so what I did was I just said, instead of using it across the entire broad scope, let's just have it be have it search just the first name and the last name field. So we'll save that query rule. We'll go back to our search page and I'll search for Adele again. And in this case, it should find her. And it didn't yet, so there it goes, and it found Adele. So that's a way to improve the relevancy. The last thing I want to show you before we dive off is how to add that page, that employee directory as a page here. The first thing I want to make sure that I have a fully published page so that everybody can see it. So I'll go into pages and I'll just look to see that our page, our employee directory is published, and it is. So the last thing I need to do is just go into, I guess I got to go to site contents, and from here I can go to site settings. I love modern. Then I'll go down to search settings. And then down here is my search navigation. So let's go ahead and add a link to our employee directory. Browse the page. You can decide where you want to put it. If you want, you can move this guy up. And then choose OK. And that's all it takes to move that onto the search navigation. So I can do marketing, go to my employee directory, look at all of my results, drop down here to administrative assistance, for example. Now, before I get off this page, I just want to show you that this actually does work with photos. This is what it looks like in my on-prem environment, all finished up and all working with our different user photos. So as long as you're choosing users, you get your photos back. So it does work out. All righty. So we did the better people rule. One thing to note is that on very old SharePoint instances, your username, your last name field may not be sortable, which is just crazy, but that's the way it was for almost 7 years. and the way that you can figure out whether your last name field is sortable is by going into the site settings, go into the search schema, and you'll get an error like right away when you try to run our code if last name is not sortable. And so you just have to have your administrator go in and make it sortable. So here's last name, and it should say sort next to it. So we just have a note in there to remind you that that's one thing that we want to make sure is working the way that we want. All right, so the last thing was triggering a profile reindex in SharePoint, and I showed you how to do that. I did it a little bit out of order because I wanted you to see how Michael's code ran, but that was the PowerShell that allows us to reset the user profiles using this reset user profiles function. All of the links are in the document for you to be able to trigger that profile. So what you can do after this, if you like, is you can check out my SharePoint search back to front. That's an exhaustive view. It's 4 hours of content on SharePoint Online. I'm sorry, on SharePoint On-Prem administration as well as Search Center administration. The Search Center stuff still applies to Office 365, but it's really good content, I think. It's very well reviewed. And I've seen that aside from the lost audio, it looks like Jeremy's been staying on top of our questions. So as I said, you're always welcome to email me if you have questions, but check out the Employee Directory Sign-Up Guide. If you downloaded a previous copy of the guide, there is a version that Jeremy has updated recently, and the way that you can tell it's updated is it says Matthew McD and it says Able Blue right here. And that's the latest copy of the guide. So I want to thank you all for coming, and I hope you got some value out of the seminar. I apologize for the audio issues. I'm just not sure what's going on with the network this morning. But if there are no other questions, then thank you guys, and have a great day.